Are you happy with how your dog behaves at home, but you've tried to take them outside in the real world and things fell apart? Well, we've got tips for you to help you out. My name is Camille with Pawsitive Futures Dog Training, and today we're going to go over tips and strategies on how to move your training from the house to the wider world. So one of the most common mistakes that we see people make is taking their dogs out into the world in environments or situations that are just too stimulating or just too much, and your dog just can't cope with the amount of distraction. It might be that they're just too excited because, oh my god, there's people and there's stuff and oh my god, or they might be just a little bit nervous, and so they might not be taking food, or they might not be able to focus for more than a few seconds because they're trying to scan and be hyper vigilant with everything happening around you. So one of the first things that we want to do is choose our new environments judiciously. So usually I recommend a park nearby that's pretty quiet, low traffic, somewhere where your dog is going to be, oh, this is new, but not drastically new. I would not take my dog to like a farmer's market on the first try because that is a lot to handle. The second thing you want to keep in mind too is that dogs don't generalize skills well. So just because they know how to do it very well at home and in the backyard does not mean they know what to do in other contexts. So when we practice in new places, we have to usually lower our criteria and pretend our dogs don't know anything, right? So if I'm taking my dogs to the park for the first time and I ask them to sit, I will usually lure them into the sit just as if I was teaching it for the first time, at least for a few reps until they go, oh, wait, I know this. And then we can go, okay, now can you do the hand signal? Now can you do the verbal cue? And then can we do it in a little different locations in the same park kind of thing? Until we get enough reps overall that my dogs know, okay, sit means sit every time. It doesn't matter what's going on. Another thing that also we tend to see as a problem is not bringing reinforcement with you or high enough value reinforcement. A lot of times if you're bringing your dog to a new environment that is novel and exciting, kibble is probably not going to cut it unless you have a very, very food motivated dog that's used to kind of working in new environments already and is used to taking kibble out of the house and on field trips and things like that. So you do want to have, usually I recommend having a mix of things too, so you can kind of switch it up, and so it's not always the same thing where they might just get bored of it. Bringing some hot dogs, some string cheese, some dried liver, mixing it with the kibble so that you have like a nice range of low to high value to reward your dog appropriately depending on how hard the behavior they're doing is, and also to switch it up just so that it keeps them engaged and they go, oh wow, this is new, what else do you have in there? And they'll kind of keep offering those behaviors. So one thing you want to make sure too when you get to a new environment is giving your dog enough time to acclimate to the new environment. I never, even with my dogs who are used to going lots of different places, I never expect them to work as soon as we get out of the car. They always get 5-10 minutes of just being silly, walking around, sniffing stuff, peeing on stuff, where there's really no criteria beyond don't drag me down the road, but it's really relaxed. They can kind of sniff and pee and walk a little bit faster than normal until they settle down, they've taken everything in, and then they're like, okay, we're ready. Now we can actually listen to what you're trying to do. And we also have a bunch of different attention and acclimation games that we'll show you guys to help you kind of get that started of, okay, we get out of the car, we're not ready to work yet, but can we kind of speed up the process? And it's a nice way to warm up your dog too and kind of remind them that they're attached to a human. The human has good things. If we listen to the human, we might just get good stuff too, and reduce a lot of the frustration for the dogs because they just want to go and do stuff, and for us because we can't do anything, our dog is being a complete maniac. So those games are super helpful for that. Another thing you want to be mindful too, along the fact that dogs don't generalize well and that new environments tend to be very stimulating and exciting, is choosing what behaviors you ask your dogs judiciously. You want to be aware of how difficult the behavior you're asking is for your dog. Make sure you pay appropriately so that they're being compensated fairly for the work they're putting in, but also being realistic, right? If I get to the farmer's market, within 2 minutes I am not going to ask my dog into a focused heel because the chances that they can do it is very low. They're still really excited, there's a lot of stuff going on, so we want to make sure that we're asking for easy behaviors and then gradually adding more difficulty and asking for behaviors that are a little bit more expensive. Same things with, I'll usually start with a touch. Hand target is very easy. Most dogs can do it even if they're in a state of, oh my god, an arousal. Okay, if we can get touches consistently and it's easy for the dog to perform, okay, can we add a sit? Good job. Can we add a sit with 2 seconds of the sit? Can we have it sit in 5 seconds? Now can we do it down? I wouldn't ask your dog to down right away because that's going to be too difficult for them to do. So you want to be sure that you're using easy behaviors to build into the harder behaviors to help your dog succeed. One thing you also want to be aware of and conscious of is making sure you take lots of breaks when you're out and about. Already when we work at home, we typically recommend doing really short training sessions, 3 to 5 minutes. Out and about, I would say probably even just a little bit shorter, so under 5 minutes, and then giving your dog nice long breaks that they enjoy, and that means letting them go sniff, maybe playing with them a little bit, maybe running with them so they can just be silly and be goofy, because then they're going to be refreshed, their mind is going to be refreshed, so they can kind of go back to, okay, now I need to focus and pay attention. And also because then they get interaction with their environment, and you can layer it in a way that your dog learns, hey, if I focus for those 3 minutes, then I get to do lots of fun stuff in the environment, so that the environment, instead of being a distraction and that conflict and friction of I want to go sniff and my human doesn't want me to go sniff, oh cool, I'll get to sniff if I just do that little thing they're asking me to do, then I can have fun. Before you get started, make sure to keep an eye on your dog's body language, because that can give you a lot of information on how your dog is feeling. What you want to look out for, signs that your dog might be over threshold and not enjoying the experience and might have to just leave and go home. Our dogs, that seem very frantic, who are just running at the end of the leash, running in circles, who can't seem to just stop for a second. They're just kind of all over the place. That tells me usually that this is way too much, and we're probably not going to get to a point where we can focus enough to do, even simple skills and simple behaviors. Another sign that your dog might not be comfortable, either too excited or a little too nervous, is a dog that normally takes food quite easily is suddenly not interested in food, even in the higher value stuff. That usually tells me, oh, okay, we're not there yet. We might have to take a step back or move to a quieter location and acclimate there, and then move back to where we originally planned to work. Along the same lines, a dog that can't seem to listen to anything, even after those 5-10 minutes of just walking around, sniffing around. If your dog can't comply with the simplest touch or their name or looking at you, and they seem just very fixated on moving forward, moving there, moving, that also is usually a sign that your dog might be over threshold and that you might need to take a step back. Body language wise, we want to watch out for tails that are tucked under the body, ears that are very flat the entire time, a lot of tension in the body, maybe a heavy panting, even if it's not that hard or even if you haven't walked for that long of a time, lots of tension in the face. That's usually a sign that the brain is working overtime and we might just need to take a break. Also, excessive whining, excessive barking. If your dog just seems to be whining or barking at nothing at all and everything at the same time, that is usually a very good sign that your dog is in over its head, and you might need to either dial back and choose a different location or find a quieter location in that park that you're already at, just to help your dog acclimate and settle and maybe work from a distance. Okay, we'll just stay here and watch stuff from a distance for a little bit and go home, instead of planning to actually go for a walk or planning to interact with people and stuff like that around the park. Another thing too you want to consider for success is the frequency with which you take your dog out to new places. Typically when I start in the real world training, I'll choose a nice close by location that I know has a little bit of traffic that I can navigate around, so that if I need distractions I can find them, but if I want to stay away I can stay away as well. And I'll visit that place several times in a row. So I don't expect, okay, we did one park, we're going to move to the next one. We'll do one location several times until my dog is fluent in that location, and then okay, now we'll next level up, different location, and same thing, we'll visit a few times until we can move to the next one and next one. What you should find if your training is effective is that you don't need as many repetitions every time. Like, oh, new location twice, the dog was fine. New location, one time they were doing really well, and that usually is a good sign that your dog now has fluency and knows those behaviors and can apply them in kind of any environment. And you also want to make sure that you do it frequently enough in time that it's not a novel thing. You know, if you take your dog out twice a year, even if it's the same spot, they're gonna be, whoa, I haven't been there in a while. The smells are gonna be different, everything's gonna look different and feel different. So it's gonna be very hard for your dog to kind of remember, oh, that's right, 6 months ago we did sit here, I remember. So you wanna kind of do it frequently, you know, at least once a week, maybe twice a week. Even if it's very short, again, it doesn't have to be an hour-long thing. You can literally go for 10 minutes, even if it's just to hang out. Because again, the more your dog gets to experience those locations and being out of the house, the more likely they are to generalize those skills and see it as, well, what do you do? This is what we do. We just go to the park and hang out. It's not a big deal. Now remember, when you do these training outings, your dog should be your priority. The outing is for your dog to learn new skills. So you want to have that contingency plan in place that if it is too much, if your dog gets tired, if they're not responsive, if they feel frustrated, that okay, we're cutting it up, we're just going back home. So for instance, you know, if I'm planning to take my dog to Starbucks for the first time, in my mind, let's get a coffee and we'll sit for 10-15 minutes. But if I get there and my dog, nope, then we're not getting coffee, we're just going back home. So you want to make sure your dog is your priority so that they have a good time, that we're not building a lot of frustration into the role training, especially those first few sessions, because that's really a good way to shoot yourself in the foot and make it very likely for your dog not to enjoy being out and about and be even less responsive because they see it as very stressful and frustrating. So make it easy, especially if you have younger dogs, puppies and teenagers who have already very short attention spans. You want to plan ahead and have, you know, goals that you want to accomplish, but you need to be very flexible that if it's not going to plan, we're bailing right away. We're not going to try to push more. It's better for you and your dog to just go, okay, not today, we'll go home, we'll try again tomorrow. Then no, we're going to push, you can do it. That's going to actually set back your training and your relationship with your dog further than if you just go, okay, well, today was not today, we'll try again at some other point. Alright, we hope this video and those tips helped you guys bring your training from inside the home to the real world. If you find that your dog is struggling with distractions out in the real world, you might want to check out this video that teaches you how to get your dog to disengage from high value distractions.